item is called, the applicant or his or her representative will be allowed to speak, and then any people that are against the item will also be allowed to speak. If there's opposition to the request, the applicant will be allowed to make a short rebuttal. All people wishing to speak, please just come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. All statements should be limited to 3 minutes. And if there are several people in favor of one item, you can nominate a spokesperson to speak on behalf of your group. While public discourse is very important to the commission, we have to maintain order. And in doing so, ask that all people refrain from making personal remarks, becoming boisterous, or interrupting people that are currently speaking. The commission members have reviewed each of these items in a previous work session, and the recommendations we make tonight to the city council will be based on that work session and the information provided by staff, as well as any additional information we hear tonight. After completing the hearing on each item, the commission will consider the item, and any actions taken tonight, excluding the plats, will just be in the form of a recommendation to the city council. The city council will also conduct public hearings on the items excluding plats. Public hearings for all remaining cases will be held on Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 in the Boston Theater of the Waco Convention Center at 100 Washington Avenue. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of our September 24th, 2024 work session and business meeting. Are there any changes or additions? Seeing none, they will stand approved as written. The first item on our agenda tonight is subdivisions. For final plat of lots 1-21 of the Cypress Village Edition. What is city staff recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, our first subdivision public hearing is to consider the final plat of lots 1-21, block 1, Cypress Village Edition. Property is located within the city of Waco at the intersection of Gurley Lane and South 21st Street. Property is zoned R2, which is our 2-family and attached single-family residence district, and it includes 21 lots. Staff has reviewed the final plat and finds it to be consistent with the Cypress Village Edition preliminary plat, which was approved on August 22nd, 2023. Staff has reviewed the final plat and recommends approval of the final plat of lots 1-21, block 1, Cypress Village Edition.
Thank you. Is the applicant or representative here to speak on behalf of this one?
I'm supposed to go to a designated spot.
Yeah.
Kind of awkward in here.
Feels like a new position. My name is Jacob Bell with Walker Partners, 823 Washington Avenue. We are the engineer and surveyor representing the project. If you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer them.
Would anyone else like to speak on behalf of this item? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to recommend approval based on staff findings.
Second. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Allen. Please pull the board.
Allen?
Yes.
Embry?
Yes.
Ingram?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes. For preliminary plat of the Starbucks edition, what is city staff recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, our second subdivision public hearing is to consider the preliminary plat of the lots 1, 2, and 3, block 1, Starbucks Edition. Property is located within the city of Waco at the intersection of Flat Rock Road and China Spring Road. Property is zone C2, which is our community commercial district, and includes 3 lots. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat and recommends approval of the preliminary plat of the lots 1, 2, and 3, block 1, Starbucks Edition.
Is the applicant and representative here to speak on behalf of this item? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve per city staff recommendation. Second.
Motion by Mr. Vickers, second by Mr. Ingram. Please pull the commission.
Allen?
Yeah.
Embry?
Yes.
Ingram?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes. Moving on to zoning applications, item Z-24-49, what is city staff's recommendation?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing request from Walker Partners LLC for an amended concept plan of the Cowan Village Plan Unit Development PUD to reallocate areas of multifamily and commercial between Ritchie Road and the residential portion of the Cowan Village PUD, being properly located at the northwest side of the intersection of Ritchie Road and Cowan Boulevard, and described as approximately 151.173 acre tract, more or less located in the L Marble Survey, abstract 580 in the city of Waco, McLean County, Texas. The planning service mailed out 158 notices to properties within the PUD and 72 properties within 200 feet of the PUD for a total of 231 notices. Staff received 3 return. Planning services recommends approval of the amended concept PUD based on the following findings. Findings are: 1, proposed reconfiguration of multifamily commercial land use components within the PUD creates a more harmonious relationship with the adjacent single-family residential areas. By placing the multifamily land use between commercial and single-family land use, the new configuration provides a buffer that reduces the potential for negative impacts, such as noise, traffic, and other disruptions that might arise from having commercial areas too close to single-family homes. 2, the proposed PUD amendment is consistent with the land use component of the comprehensive plan, purpose of Chapter 28 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, Texas, and the Plan Unit Development Regulations. Conditions are: 1, the final PUD plan must meet the development standards consistent with the concept PUD plan and the site requirements of the Plan Review Committee, including but not limited to the following: site grading and drainage, signage regulations, parking, site coverage, access and circulation, landscaping, refuse location, and access and fire protection location and access. 2, the property shall be platted in accordance with the subdivision ordinance prior to issuance of building permits.
Is the applicant or representative?
Good evening, Jacob Bell, Walker Partners, 823 Washington Avenue. We are representing the developer tonight for this request. When we originally did the planning and development, the concept plan for Callan Village, which I believe was 2016 or 2017, and I think there was a previous image, but we can see on that one, there you go. The original concept plan, there were really no plans or any conversations with any developer about what to do along the frontage of Ritchie. And so just in concert with the developer, we said, okay, we'll do commercial on one side of the road and multifamily on the other side of the road to see how it plays out. And then if you could advance to the next one, please. As it has played out, I think y'all had a final PUD case a month or 2 ago for a corner store on, I would say, the south side, so that commercial 2.19 acres. That's the only thing that has developed. And just in the course of those conversations, it started to become apparent. Well, you know, typically you would just put the commercial along the main road. Most commercial developers are going to be interested in that. And then the idea and conversation started to become, as Mr. Boyd referenced, you know, transitioning from commercial to multifamily to single family on each side would probably be pretty good. And my understanding is some conversation with the Carlton Yard and Van Callen Village that was appealing. So this is just a simple change to the concept plan to allow commercial frontage along the frontage of Ritchie in a transition zone from commercial to multifamily and then to single family. We haven't answered any questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of the site? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Please just say your name and address.
Hi, Zachary Beggs. I live at 2300 Paddington Way. And sorry, this is a little bit off the cuff here, but understanding, of course, those of us who live in the neighborhood that this is really just kind of a shift in planning, but I think we have some concerns about the type of multifamily housing that would be placed in that section. In our case, we live on Paddington Way, which actually backs up to where some of that multifamily housing would be, which, if it is built over even really one story, would mean that we could have people literally looking into our backyard and our windows, several of which, 7 or 8, face, you know, that area. Nothing could really block that view. So I think there's some major privacy concerns for one. And I would say that's obviously true on both sides of Callan Boulevard. The other thing would be, of course, in terms of property values, what that would look like having a bunch of multifamily housing backed up to a single family housing neighborhood like that. So those are the 2 primary concerns in my mind. You know, and particularly for those of us who live right there at the edge of the property, that would be an extreme concern.
You know, by the way, we actually talked about this at length in our work session. And I think what we were trying to understand is to get the concerns of the neighborhood. So both the multifamily that's blue and then the previous slide that was red, as far as we can see in the PUD restrictions, the height requirements for either one of those delineations is 35 feet maximum, so 1 to 2 stories. So our understanding was that interchanging the red and the blue here, whether you call it multifamily or commercial, we weren't impacting any potential heights that would come in. And it says the max 15 dwelling units per acre. So I think with the blue coming in on the bottom part, I guess would potentially have in the ballpark of, 22 to 25 units spread across the 1.6 acres. So that's not a question yet, but that's kind of the background we got through the hour conversation we had, is that our vote was not impacting potential heights behind the residential houses. It was just a matter of would the neighborhood prefer potentially a 30-foot commercial building versus a multifamily.
Yeah, understanding, of course, we can't have everything we want, which basically none of that would be there. But height restrictions, great. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't want. I mean, it's difficult for me to really, in my mind, envision 35 feet and how that would really impact our property, particularly since it's on the edge of that. But is it preferable to have that versus all of that particular section be commercial? Perhaps so. I imagine some of my neighbors would have their own opinions on it, but obviously we just want to keep the quality and the neighborhood as it is, or as much as possible. Notwithstanding what needs to happen with that property.
Susan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 35 feet is also the same for the residences around you. I think the height is consistent for the residential, every residential or house back there and the commercial. So if that gives you an idea of what that could look like, it's the maximum height for a house in the neighborhood.
That's good to hear. I mean, traffic I know has also been a concern, particularly since there will be a convenience store. It seems like on that one corner with additional multifamily housing, there's more traffic coming into Calhoun Boulevard, which is not really well set up as it is to handle that. So I think there's been some concerns about that from my neighbors. But so yeah, again, I'll defer to them, for additional issues.
So I guess it's Paddington, if I'm correct, is on the south side, the bottom side of this photo.
Yes.
Correct.
First street on the left.
Yeah.
So I mean, kind of our decision today is the property that backs up to your house could be commercial or it could be multifamily. Do you have a preference on which one it is? If you have to choose,
I don't get a C option. Yeah, I mean, if we had to choose, I think multifamily makes more sense there for us versus commercial. I mean, if it's really one or the other. Ultimately, it comes down to what does that really look like? I understand that's not being decided here, but does it fit, again, the quality of the neighborhood? Help us retain the property values that we had hoped to have, in investing in those places, and the quality of life too, with a bunch of the kids that we have running around the neighborhood, with the traffic that we like that doesn't really exist for the most part. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me to make a choice there. I understand, what we're kind of faced with, but
Thanks. We'll definitely let the others speak, but we just wanted y'all to have the context that we don't have an option C. So whichever way we vote, we're not changing the height requirement. So we didn't want it to come off as that we.
No, that's reassuring. I think for a lot of us, it's not really understanding the process, how things are being decided, what was being decided, and at what time. We just wanted to show up and make sure that we had a voice in it.
And to recap, your concerns were privacy, property values, and quality of life. Did I miss one?
I'd say traffic too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like
Robert Mott, 2000 Slocum Court. I think I've been at your last couple of meetings. Somebody brought up the height requirement. It says it has to meet the ordinances of the neighborhood. So is there a square footage requirement? Because our square footage
for our homes is 2,000 square feet. Is that the same requirement for these things? If it's supposed to meet the standards of our subdivision, do they have to meet those standards?
There are different standards among each, which I'm assuming the PUDs available for y'all, but in the multifamily,
No, that's been very hard to get, is a copy of the PUD. And I've missed the gentleman with Walker. I have yet to find anybody in our neighborhood that thinks any of this is a good idea. So I don't know what he's referring to, but our neighborhood meetings, nobody has said this is a good idea. But I'd be interested, I tried to get a copy of the PUD, I haven't been able to get one. I called the planning department, left messages unreturned, nobody's called me back. Finally got a hold of the gentleman this morning who was very helpful. And was able to get me at least to this part of the hearing that I can read. And part of it said that it had to meet I had it up on my phone before it closed the meeting, but that it had to meet the ordinances of the standards of our neighborhood. So I'm wondering if the height requirement is I would like the square footage needs to be the same thing. Because I agree with Zach that the height, somebody looking over your fence on this is not good, but I do understand your point with the house. My bigger concerns are the whole multifamily. Again, what kind of multifamily is going to be allowed back there? Okay. 2-story would not be recommended. I'd like to lower the height restriction to that, make it single story. But I would like that we at least have to have the minimum square footage of our neighborhood, which is in our HOA minimum square footage. And if it's supposed to match our neighborhood, that needs to at least be there.
So
The
are
whole-
you concerned about minimum square footage or maximum square footage?
Minimum.
You have an HOA?
Yes, we do.
And is that what establishes the minimum square footage?
Yes.
Then this wouldn't be subject to the HOA. The HOA is only for, this is the PUD, not the HOA. Which is,
I guess the context that we're trying to.
But it said it had to meet the standards of subdivision, and that would be the standards of subdivision.
So, and city staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but the developer got this PUD approved in 2017. When they started building this entire area. And so all of the height restrictions and the use cases are already laid out and approved.
Yeah.
So if we disapprove tonight, all we're really approving or disapproving is whether or not that back sliver that's red
Mhm.
turns to blue. That's the
Okay.
only decision that is put forth in front of us tonight. Any
Right.
input on?
I mean,
heights?
and that's been the struggle with the meetings for you guys. The first letters that were sent out on the first thing about the gas station, it was sent to 9 homes. There's 50 homes in there, only 9 got. I complained to my city councilman and I noticed 158 got mailed out this time around. Okay, so the communication has been very poor. Plus the letter that they sent out had the council meeting and all that, but had the wrong dates. Literally showed up to the council meeting on the wrong date because they put the wrong dates on there. So we didn't even get to voice our concerns. There's huge traffic concern. I don't think any of you guys have thought about that gas station. And I'd love to show you a picture of what Ritchie Road looks like at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I have it on my phone that there's a lot of traffic there, and putting all this other stuff just puts more traffic through our neighborhood. Okay, and I saw red dots. I didn't know if that meant those were entrances for that.
Yeah, I think
Is that what that red dot meant on the plan?
they're entry features as well.
Entry features, okay. And
So-
that's for the single family home, correct?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, okay,
If I can speak to some of those concerns, as far as the notices and who they're mailed to, that's prescribed by state statute. I think it's a little unfair to complain that our city is going above and beyond and sending more notices than are required. They are doing more than the state statute requires in this case by mailing out over 230 notices to people
they mailed
But they're
nine
not required.
on the first,
because that's what the state statute requires.
okay, Why only 9? I'm sorry, I don't know the
It
state
has to do with
statute.
the buffer that is around the property that's being considered. There's a 200-foot buffer that the state
Okay.
requires us to send those to.
Right.
And the city always complies with those. As far as not knowing what's going on in that area, I can tell you that I live less than a quarter mile from this area. This is within my district, and each of these council members are from different districts, so we have a diverse, understanding of the city of Waco, and including this district. That's where I live, not in Town Village, but right there in Park Meadows. I pass this 2 or 3 times daily. I understand the traffic concern. But if I might ask, when did you purchase your home?
If I'm not mistaken, I purchased the very first lot when it became available,
And you know what year that was?
21.
Okay, so
And we understand all this was pre-done. Great, we understand that. Is it bad on our part that we thought we didn't need to, when my original discussions with the developer, okay? He said his vision is Badger Ranch. Okay, it's gonna be like Badger Ranch. Okay, I don't think the developer had any bad intentions. I think he intended to do valid Badger Ranch because he was part of Badger Ranch. So, but I think as things went on, COVID hit, values tanked, and the developer's making a pure business decision. Okay, this is a pure business decision. Okay, and this is where, as citizens, we count on you guys to look at this and go, hey, this may not be the best idea for them. Okay, it may not be the best idea for this neighborhood. Okay, these plans were approved 17, 16, I think is what he said. I mean, that area has blown up. And if you live in Park Meadows, you know it's blown up. And the amount of traffic is put out on Ritchie Road is staggering. Okay, so we may have approved this a long time ago, but I think we've got to look at how much that area has changed, and we have to make decisions going, hey, this may not be the best place for this, or this may not be the best solution for this. I don't think, like I said, I don't think the developer meant anything wrong. I think it became a total business decision for him. He needed to sell that. And from my understanding, he sold the back half of the development already. It's a business decision. I get it. I own my own business. But his business decision affects us personally and affects our values, but it has nothing to value for him. He has no repercussions of this. We have to live with this. And if you guys could just take this into account, that we have a lot of values. We have things that we don't want to see go down. So
as
I
far as
appreciate it.
reconsidering the original decision, I mean, that's part of what we're trying to do here today is ask and talk about whether switching where the multifamily and the commercial is makes more sense for the neighborhood.
I understand.
And so do you have an opinion as to that?
Not that's valuable. I mean, if of the two plans, I kind of like the first one, to be honest with you, because I have a feeling that that back side looks so bad, nobody would want to build there. I would never build there. As a commercial building, I would never build anything behind that. And so I may get lucky and roll the dice that nothing ever gets built back there. But it may get built there. But I would rather have the commercial because it's probably not going to be 35 feet high. If I live on Paddington, I won't have somebody looking through my back. So if I had that option, but I live further in, that part of it doesn't affect me. But the traffic flow has not been looked at because when I called the street department, there was no traffic study. They told me no traffic, and I'd love to know if there was actually one. No traffic study was done on that intersection, anything before the gas station entrances, and I don't even know if they've been finally approved. I have no knowledge. I haven't been able to get that answer. I'd love to get that answer because they should never have access to Callan Boulevard. Their two cutouts must stay on Ritchie Road. And if you go down to the Sefco, as you know, the other end of the street, they have two cutouts onto Ritchie Road. They have no need to have a cutout on Paddington Way. I'm sorry, on Callan Boulevard. But what's going to happen even with the two cutouts on Ritchie Road, people are gonna get to that, and at some point it'll be a light. They're gonna turn left onto Panther, left, right onto Paddington Way into our neighborhood and create a lot of traffic on what it should be a quiet neighborhood. And because they are taking a commercial real estate, the gas station, they're gonna get, I guarantee you, they get no less than 8 semi trucks a week. And those semi trucks are gonna miss that turn. They're not gonna be able to do a U-turn. They're gonna cut through the neighborhood. And none of that seems to have been taken into account. But again, I don't know exactly where the cutouts are going to go for the curb cut, but I wish somebody would actually tell me what the answer is. But I'm probably out of time.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate what you do. I know it's a pain in the ass, but thank you very much.
My name is Rick Trader. I live on Stinson. And I just have one question I just have as far as the commercial, what type of commercial can be built in those two red areas? Is that something that somebody can clarify? Is it retail, are they retail stores or are they something? Okay.
Yeah, okay, so, the specified uses, that we had worked with, the applicant's representative was, for commercial to have service type establishments, which would include coffee shop, restaurant, cleaners, etc., small retail. We had a clarifier, with the applicants, as to what small retail would be. That's 15,000 square feet max per store or single use tenant. And then also a convenience store, which is a convenience store, which is the only one that they would be permitted there. And then and office space. So those were the types that uses that.
Okay, thank you. And the convenience store is the one that's already it's already been decided on. It's already being planned. Okay, I just want to make sure which is on. Okay. Then the other question that I have is as far as the multi-family, are there any specific types? Can those be duplexes, townhouses, apartments? Is that correct? Specified on that.
They can be any type as long as they comply with staying under the 35-foot height requirement. They also can't be more than 15 dwelling units per acre. And it looks like there has to be a setback of at least 25 feet from the front, 25 feet from the rear, and 5 feet from the side.
Okay. So as far as the type, there can't be any kind of restrictions on type structure that can be.
No, just the density and the height, just what.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, all right. Thank you. I mean, obviously, for us, we would just, ideally would be more something other than an apartment, but I know it sounds like we aren't able to.
Is your question more like townhomes? Is that acceptable?
Townhomes would be better than apartments for us. I would definitely agree with that. So, and duplexes even, I know that in rental houses as an option too.
That's specified.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention that. So there is a component, obviously it's not in this area and it's actually offset, but this kind of U-shape down here is the earmarked part for townhomes. And then with it, I guess getting into the specifics of what we talk about with the type of design, it mentions contemporary hill country feel. Builders will, our buildings would be 1 to 2 stories. The construction materials would include masonry, stone, brick, stucco, etc., glass, architectural panel. So there is some specific requirements that actually have to be included into, and this is just to amend this right here. It's not talking about changing any of these other components to it. It's only specific and limited to swapping out those limits of commercial and multifamily.
Okay, great, thanks. The only other concern that I have, or the only concern that I should say that I have, and you mentioned this earlier when you read through the series of changes dealing with drainage, but what I want to specifically comment on is that we were the first house in the subdivision, and we have a wooden fence. After our wooden fence was built, the developer came in and put a a center block, which is the backyard fence for many houses along our street. And so water gets trapped along that fence on both inside the backyard and on the other side, which is where we're talking about. And it just channels. And when it gets to our yard, it just floods our yard. And so there's a drainage issue already. And I have videos of it, even if you guys want to see that. But adding more structures will create even more of a drainage issue. So I know this may not necessarily be the right venue to discuss that, but I don't know exactly. I'm kind of like Bob. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when to discuss that, but I at least want to make sure that that's known, that there needs to be some considerations to channel that way from our yards and our structure. So if that can be somehow noted, that would be appreciated.
Definitely, and I think we could make note and get that to our floodplain.
The applicant is proposing to amend, not jumping on, Enrique, can you help me? I'll just go to this screen here. So what you see here is the whole concept plan. Everything that's colored is the concept plan. Everything was approved in 2017 as it is, other than switching with the red and blue areas around here. So the concept plan is this entire property. That is the Callan Village, concept plan. So to go back to one of the questions that was asked earlier is why were so many people notified this time? That is because with a concept plan, we have to notify everybody that's included within that colored area. That is an amendment to the whole Callan Village. If you amend one little part, you're amending the entire concept plan of the Callan Village. So that's why we sent out almost 200 notices this time. Once this concept plan is approved, it is approved by ordinance at City Council. So it is a recorded document at City Council. It is a public recorded document by ordinance. When the developer is ready to move forward with a specific project in the concept plan, such as, I'm going to use the convenience store as an example, it then has to go forward as a final plan unit development of just that property that's being developed at the time. That's when we look at more specifics on drainage, topography, building locations, setbacks, architectural design. I believe that was some of the changes that were discussed with the convenience store is how's the building going to look? That's when we get into the nitty gritty on addressing those things. So the concept plan is basically it's a zoning map. Maybe not your traditional zoning. Instead of, or traditional zoning, instead it comes with this document attached and approved by the ordinance called the, it's a report basically that gets attached to the map. That outlines some of the setback requirements that you've read for what kind of buildings would be allowed in a commercial district. So I just wanted to clarify, this is the concept discussion, amended concept discussion. The original was approved in 2017. So the action before the board tonight is, should they recommend approval of this amendment, changing the multifamily area and the commercial area, reallocating where those are located at. When they're ready to build multifamily developments there, you will see that again as the final planned unit development, similar to the convenience store that went through. And it'll be a lot more detailed as far as what fine-tune is, all those items that were discussed. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit. This isn't the last step in the process. This is the conceptual step at this time.
If I can add just one thing to what Laura just said, the concept plan does direct the uses. So at the final plan, the use is already decided. So it is the concept that governs what uses, i.e. the types of commercial or whatnot. But she's right, the design and those other more specific elements come in at the final plan.
So was the gas station the original part of the PUD?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It was in the original concept plan as a convenience store.
And again, the developer never gave any of that to any of us. So even though, but all of those homes that you pointed out could be townhomes in that little circle, those currently right now are being built as duplexes. So that would be far better
Yes.
than the townhomes. And I think Russ Davis, who bought most of those lots, is building those townhomes, and he's done a good job. Okay, so, I think if we can maintain that, it would be a definite plus for us.
And did I hear you say that it's 25 feet is how far the
Setback.
that would be from that cinder block fence?
Well,
Front, right?
it is,
25 from that.
25.
What is the front?
5 feet?
What is the front?
the front would be Allen Boulevard.
Because that's your narrow.
As the setbacks are listed right now, that would likely be a side setback.
How far?
That would be a side setback, which is
Five.
five, the way it is written right now.
The proposed change would be 25 feet?
We're not proposing to change what was approved in 2007.
But I meant with putting the residential back there, that was 25 feet if that's the case.
No,
Changing at all, but
On either side.
on either side, so 25 feet.
Yeah, you said 25 earlier.
25 on front and back, 5 foot on side. And so,
So it'd be 25 feet from the wall.
no, because what is considered the front and back is the narrowest part of the property is the front.
Oh, not of the house, of the property.
Of the
Got
property.
it. Got it. Sorry, misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Wrong terminology.
And Laura, is it
I
true
was
that
orienting.
if it was townhome designation hypothetically up there, it still says that by concept, even townhomes allowed to be 2 stories. So that
yes,
might not eliminate the problem of the privacy, which I can sympathize with, but as it's written and not before us, that would still remain a potential problem.
yes, 2-story max for townhomes and also a 5-foot side setback. Now, when the final development plan is presented, those could be some items of discussion. Once that plan is out there, it's like, can we provide more of a buffer? Can we provide,
On one side of the street that is up against the wall of Callan Village. That whole road be
The driveway in.
single story. And the, is it turning into a cul-de-sac from what that is right there?
turning into, I'm sorry?
What are the access points of the blue residential on this
This,
slide?
this only is discussing showing the land use. The what you're asking for is with the, access points and everything, that's what will be presented when they submit a final plan unit
I
development.
know, but we're talking about this going into the split up of residential and commercial. Yeah, can you go to the next slide? The potential for access points on this looks like it's only gonna be on Callan Boulevard.
Yeah, I believe,
This one has potential to be off of Ritchie.
yes, I believe what was discussed with the convenience store was that this was going to be a shared driveway through here between the commercial and the multifamily.
That's a bad
But again,
Or off of Ritchie.
Off a cow.
we're kind of going past the item for discussion for tonight with the
But
application.
those are the concerns, is the access point from what that previous slide was, the potential of that versus now we're pointing at it could be on Callan Boulevard. And then it looks like it could be potentially a cul-de-sac the way it's set up right there.
Okay, first of all, we need you to come up to the podium and give your name, and now we'll turn that over to the chair to address that.
Alex Saldaco, 2120 Stinson Court.
And just before you, so sorry, I think because we're in a different setting tonight, we don't have our normal beeper and buzzer. We
3
typically don't take questions from the audience and we have a strict 3-minute policy and the beeper goes off. And we'll remind again, we are only here to vote whether or not multifamily takes up some of the existing commercial use on one side of the road.
Right.
And cuts it, adds commercial on the other. So any of these setbacks, the entrances, the driveways, the traffic, the drainage.
But that all has,
But I think what he's saying is, and it is applicable to this, is that the way it is now, ingress could and egress could be done on Ritchie. If we were to change it to this, the multifamily ingress would have to be on Callan Village. So that is related to our topic
What
today.
Laura said is they already have access for the convenience store off of Callan.
Sure.
So there's already.
And we're talking about the multifamily.
Right, but she just said there's gonna be.
They're gonna share that.
Well, that's only on the south side, but on the north side.
Yeah, that would have to.
but you're talking about sharing the access from Callan Boulevard or from Ritchie?
I will defer to them I don't know the details, but it sounded like there's already access granted for the convenience store off of Callan.
That is correct. That's the.
But the convenience store you're talking about is what? What's there, what's gonna be built as far as the gas station?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other side.
The multi, you're saying, how are you gonna access the multi?
Yes,
And so.
on the other side, northern side of that map.
Yeah, you're right, the big side. So is there an easement that the landowner has talked about to get?
That won't be discussed until we go through plating and development plans.
Okay.
We just are discussing tonight whether we want to see multifamily next to the single family or commercial next to the single.
Because
family.
based on what this looks like, it looks like it's gonna be forced into a cul-de-sac. Coming down Callan Boulevard, making a right into that complex. And it looks like there's potentially, if it's cul-de-sac, row of homes on one side and on the other side. And if that's the case, if it remains that way, it's suggested for the privacy issue that we all have is that side that faces us, that's we're concerned about, is be a single row of single story homes. And then the other side can be 2-story. Being a balance between them getting what they want and what we're asking.
Jacob, or after you see your time, we can have the applicant's representative come back and respond.
Okay.
I don't think we know that how the access happens on the top square, whether it's all red or red and blue. We won't know right now.
But I mean, that's a big deal to us understanding if it's gonna be this way or the other way, because if it's the other way, it looks like the access point's gonna be off of
So, yes.
Richie, and then this. But now if it's not, if it's gonna be off the side, it's like, okay, if we're gonna go this way. Okay, we'll make this side against the back of our homes, single story. So we both get what we want.
Okay, we'll take that as a question and then let's let Jacob come and respond because none of us have.
Are you opposed at this point? You're opposed?
So the change.
I'm in between because I don't have answers for the access points, but I could be for this if it's single stories behind us and 2 stories on the other side.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's like meeting halfway.
Theoretically, as it is now, they could do 2 stories.
Oh, I understand that. But so if you're gonna say that's the case, and if they're gonna put 2 stories, then I'm against it.
You're opposed to that's presented.
Because then, I mean, if I'm gonna have a 2-story anyways, I'd rather have the access on Richie and then suffer the privacy looking right down on my kids.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The applicant representative would like to,
We have more opposition.
would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to fill you guys.
And I'll respond to a few of the comments. I'll work backwards because it's what's in my memory. On the access, I mean, first off, going back to the original concept plan, there was no designation or limitation of number of access points. So, for example, the red commercial and the blue multifamily very well could have and probably would have been divided into multiple tracts. And so there very well would have been multiple access points. And there was no restriction in the original concept PUD. The concept PUD did address vehicular entry locations for the commercial multifamily portion, saying they will be present on the Ritchie, Panther, and Allen Village Boulevard, the main entrance. So the original concept plan contemplated access points all around, but did not limit the number. But going forward to the new land use layout, that multifamily, it's from a home standpoint, it's not wide enough. I can just say practically, I haven't seen a plan or layout, but it isn't wide enough to have homes on the side. Let's look like super shallow. So what I would envision and just kind of thinking through some sketches of what could fit would be on the multifamily is like maybe a fire lane with parking and then the apartments on one side. But not on both sides, because there's just not enough width there, is what I'm saying, although there hasn't been a plan. But I agree with Ms. Wagstaff that, you know, the process is right now, this is just the concept plan amendment. Any final plan, final PUDs have to come back before this board and then have the opportunity for public comment. And so, for example, if this is the red commercial across the main road that pulls 4.29, it could be divided into 5 tracks. It could be 1 track. And so that isn't known at this time. There's no users firm at the table. So it will be addressed later. And they'll have all architectural controls. If there are traffic concerns with any specific use, that can be brought up. I will also say regarding traffic at the beginning of the development, traffic was discussed and there were discussions about the city eventually installing the signal at Panther and Ritchie at some point during the development. So maybe that is something that can be reconsidered. But we're, the only thing that has happened is phase 1 and 2, and then really the fire station. So this actually happened. Drainage, sorry to hear about the wall. We weren't involved on that, but I understand exactly what you're saying. So hopefully that work will get to the developer and I'll put it in notes. For these phases, the bottom south half of multifamily and commercial, it drains towards Ritchie Road. For the north half, it's kind of high on a dome and it actually drains in all 4 directions, but we're going to push it towards the neighborhood because there are pipes that we have teed up when we did the development in each corner, but there will be stormwater detention ponds installed to mitigate the increased runoff. So those won't be designed until the final plan is done. And then I agree with y'all's comments. The height limitations are the same. And then the density, 15 units per acre on multifamily is actually a pretty mild density. On the big apartments that you start to see go 2, 3, 4 stories. Those are like 30 to 35 units per acre. And so all things considered, the developer originally set that up and there's no request to change that to keep it pretty moderate. Medium density is what we describe this. Any questions that I can?
As I said, so to address the one concern brought up by a speaker, the entrances and the amount of interest don't change whether or not we make the flip that y'all are requesting. Entrances on Callum and Ritchie and all those are all already approved. So there's no real change.
Well, it was approved that entrances on those roads, but actual locations and number, there was no limitation or.
We wouldn't know until the final PUD. Yeah. So, but either way, what the decision we make tonight is not going to change.
Correct.
Where those entrances have the potential to be.
And I will say, when we did the original concept where that bottom was all red, we anticipated, 1 or 2 entrances on Callum and 1 or 2 entrances on Ritchie. But that was the final height because no one knew what the product would be, but because we figured it would be split up in 3 or 4 tracks. It would just be unusual to have 1, 4 acre.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, make up.
A rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Well, he's brought us some stuff that we didn't know before.
Try to follow the rules inside.
I would say that if the chair or any member of the commission has particular questions, that can be asked, but. We've had the.
I would love to ask you what you'd like to share. So please come back to the front.
Restate name.
Just your name. If that's
Alex Salvalco, 2120 Stinson Court. So my concern with this is he brought up that obviously he knows that it's not going to be a cul-de-sac. It's not going to be homes on both sides. It looks like it's going to be one side. And he talked about the drainage already being flowing in a direction north along the wall. And they already are prepping for that. So that means they have a plan of what's going on. We see a lot that's blue right. Why don't we know about what he's got potentially?
Because this isn't the time for that. When the final PUD is submitted, that's whenever we can discuss all of those details.
Yeah, we have.
When they submit plans for building permits, it's required to go and get these drainage plans sorted out and traffic plans. All at the time of submission for the building permit, which comes back here for final. But not at this stage.
Yeah. So as far as the solid, or as far as this map right here, the red on the north end of where the commercial is potentially going to be, why couldn't they split those up into two? And have a street come right through there to whatever planned development they're gonna do in that low area.
What you're seeing here in the colors, they're not lots at all. It's just land use. So you see blue, you see red, that's not a division of lots. This is all just, in fact, you can have one lot with multiple land uses
Right.
on it. So we're not to that point. And as I'm mentioning, you know, that gets determined when they go through plating. They could do multiple structures on one property, or they could do them on individual properties. That plan has not been submitted at this time.
Well,
And they could put a private
It
drive
could be
wherever they
private.
want. It could go through the property or just barely on the property, or,
A lot of different options depending on what use is gonna
but that would
be.
happen at the later time.
so I'm just throwing that as a concern. Why wouldn't they, if they're gonna split it like that, commercial in the front, residential in the back?
And they can do that. We just can't require them to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's certainly an option. We just
I understand
that.
Okay.
We can't make them do it now,
Right.
but it's certainly an option. I'm sure they would listen to concerns at that final PUD.
Where do I voice this?
When the final PUD comes through and they actually have a plan for what's going to go there, that's when we'll get more notices. There'll be a more definitive plan where entrances, where driveways, all these more detailed.
But is it set in stone at that point, or?
It still has to be approved. That's what the comment period is for. So it's not set in stone. It's just-
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I would love to hear
Come
from
on,
you.
bro.
3 minutes? I don't need that far.
Robert Mox, 2000 Slope Report. So my understanding is that, from what you said, that when they do the gas station, they gotta get the building permit, and you are gonna have another meeting to do all that, correct?
That are, yeah.
And that's already been approved, all the cutouts for the driveways and everything?
For the gas station.
For the gas station. Yeah, that's.
And
what we
again,
decided
that was-
later on, and-
That was the meeting that they put the wrong dates on the information, so it didn't get to voice the concern. I mean, the traffic is the biggest concern for me. And I don't think any of that's been,
I could be mistaken, but I think I remember you from that.
I didn't know whatever.
Meeting.
I mean, you know,
Yes, Ms. Black.
Yes, it was announced at the planning commission meeting that date was in error. I believe our attorney caught the error during the opening statement, and the date of the council public hearing was announced, and that is planning commission is the meeting that you were there for.
trust me, I was there, but I didn't write down every date that you put out there. So when you do this other one, will we all get notices or just the 9?
It would be noticed based on state law.
The PUD, everybody in the PUD?
No, sir, it would be noticed based on whatever the lot is filing a final PUD. So if
So
you.
200.
200.
So the rest of us won't get that notice.
It goes in the newspaper and is also located on our city webpage. Well,
But that's okay.
that is our requirement.
But that's
what
It
state
gets
law
posted on
requires.
Facebook, but I appreciate it. That's all I needed to make sure. I just need to know where to look.
If you want to change of state law, that's.
No.
Unfortunately, that's not before us tonight.
But this is the traffic is the biggest concern, and I don't think any of that's been addressed, because that intersection at Ritchie and Panther is busy.
Okay, we will now close the public hearing. And entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend approval with conditions based on staff findings.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Vickers. Is there any discussion?
what are the conditions?
The ones that were read on
Just the ones that are read.
record.
I have a question. Can I ask Christine, you're familiar with the traffic somewhat generally, fair?
All the driving.
Traffic. You're a traffic expert. Multifamily versus commercial. 15 units per acre versus potentially this commercial red. Do you have a general thought of what creates the most traffic? 15 units per acre, multifamily versus commercial? Or can it not be simplified?
I think it's hard to simplify it because trip generation absolutely will differentiate the different types of residential versus the different types of commercial and office uses.
Okay, so it's too hard to determine.
Right.
Because we are losing a
A lot
lot of
of
multifamily,
times-
which seems high density, and we're actually reducing it. So that's what I'm trying to arrive at. Is if traffic's a concern and we're actually reducing the multifamily lane from whatever that chart said.
Yeah,
Are we
that
actually
just
doing-
depends if it's a one person mail spot that gets 1 person an hour versus like, so it's
Yeah.
200.
I mean, I actually think like reducing the multifamily tracks down to where you still have to consider that you need to have parking, and you need to have a drive aisle, and you need to have buffered landscaping, and then the building itself. So the 50 units per acre, and then again, just the shape of the lot, the available land use space that would likely be the multifamily lot shape is going to limit what type of multifamily use could go in there, let alone how many units, because again, meet the parking requirements to be met there. So, you know, you are looking at a very small multifamily.
Well, it's 6 acres and 15 per acre, the max is 90, but that assumes you can maximize the space, which you likely cannot.
You like it or not, because you're not going to build a parking garage and double that your parked cars. So,
Especially on such a slow one.
yeah, so, yeah. But that's hard to say, but I mean, most of the time, you, that small multifamily like that is probably pretty comparable to, you know, the same number of single family units.
Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, please poll the commission.
Allen,
Yeah.
Embry,
No,
Ingram,
yes.
Lane,
No.
Smith,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
motion passes.
For item Z 24 what is city staff's recommendation?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request from the city of Waco for a rezone from C3 to R2 for property described as lots A5, 4, 3, block 6, and lots 3, 4, 5, 6A, 10A, and 12, block 3 of the Witt addition. Property is known as 605, 606, 608, 609, 611, 620 Hatton Street, 607, 609, 617 Lottie Street. Planning services mailed out 58 notices and have received 0 at the time of preparing a report. Planning services recommends approval of this request to change the zoning from C3 to R2 based on the following findings. 1, the proposed zoning is in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan. 2, the proposed zoning is consistent with the Waco strategic housing plan by increasing the availability of residentially zoned lots that provides better development opportunities to address the need for new housing. 3, property meets all area and width requirements for the R2 zoning district. 4, the existing public infrastructure is adequate to provide for uses allowed in the R2 zoning district. 5, R2 zoning is the dominant residential zoning in the area.
Is the applicant or their representative here to speak on behalf of this item? Is anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and then get a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval based on that finding.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Embry, second by Mr. Lane, please poll.
Allen,
Yeah.
Embry,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Lozano, oh, sorry. Ingram,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
keep you on your toes.
For item Z 24 what is city staff's recommendation?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on request from the city of Waco for rezone from C2 and C3 to R2 for property described as Lot 2, Block 23 of the Chamberlain and Taylor addition known as 1304 North 6th Street, and Lot 2, Block 5 of the addition part 7. Part 8, known as 1300 North 6th Street. Planning services mailed out 25 notices and had 0 return at the time of preparing the report. Planning services recommends approval of this request to change the zoning from C2 and C3 to R2 based on the following findings. 1, the proposed zoning is in conformance with land use component of the comprehensive plan. 2, the property meets all area requirements for this R2 Zoning district 3, the existing public infrastructure is adequate to provide for the uses allowed in the R2 zoning district. 4, proposed zoning is consistent with the Waco strategic housing plan by increasing the availability of residentially zoned lots that provides better development opportunities to address the need for new housing. 5, there's R2 zoning in the vicinity of the subject property.
Is the representative or applicant here to speak on behalf of this item? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this item? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I move to approve based on staff findings.
Second. Motion by Mr. Lane, second by Mr. Vickers, please vote.
Allen,
Yay.
Emery,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Holt.
Yes. For item ST-24-2, what is city staff's recommendation?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing on a request by the city of Waco to consider the honorary street naming of Pet Circle Road for a portion of Circle Road from the intersection with LaSalle Avenue at the Circle to the intersection with the northbound Jack Colton Expressway. Staff recommended utilizing honorary street naming, thereby keeping official name of the street as Circle Road. Through the honorary street naming process, addressing of properties will be changed. Additional topper signs will be added to the existing street signage to indicate the honorary name of Pet Circle Road. Planning Services mailed out 51 notices and had 0 returned.
Their representative.
We approve based on staff findings.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Embry, please poll the.
Allen? Yeah. Embry?
Yes.
Ingram?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes. I believe for the last item, we're not going to open a public hearing, but with regards to the amendment establishing criteria for fence construction, including height, installation, and maintenance standards, we will take any public comments at this time. Anyone here that would like to make any public comments? Okay, hearing none, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.